In the center of Meantown lives a man called Mr. Righ. Mr. Righ's house was different from all the other houses in that there was a divide right down the middle of it. Mr. Righ lived on the right side of the house. In Mr. Righ's bedroom, the sun rises to the right. He wakes up opening the right eye before the left. Then he gets up on the right side of the bed. Mr. Righ only ever uses the right side of all his furniture and appliances. He uses the right two burners to fry his eggs, and he uses the right side of the toaster to brown his toast. For breakfast, Mr. Righ eats the right side of 2 fried eggs, the right side of 2 sausages, the right side of a slice of toast, and drinks the right side of a cup of coffee. "That's all right," he said. "I think I'll go for a stroll now." Mr. Righ always took caution when walking around Meantown. Mr. Righ had lived there long enough to know that if a stranger stopped you on the street to ask,
"Excuse me, would you happen to have a tissue I might use?"
the right answer would be, "Beat it, you! I don't have anything left to give. Now get out of my way!" And he would be on his way. Mr. Righ was returning from his morning stroll when he was taken aback to see that a moving truck had been parked in front of his house. "That's not right," he said. "Who parked their truck in front of my walkway?" Just as he was walking towards his house, the truck turned on and drove away, only to reveal that a new neighbor was moving in next to Mr. Righ. There, standing on the left side of the yard, in front of the left side of the house, with a box in his left arm, was Mr. Lef. "Hello," said Mr. Lef. "Lovely day, ain't it?" Mr. Lef moved in from Leftborough, a smaller city in the north, where the people knew each other closely. "Yes, well, hello," said Mr. Righ. "It's all right." "I'm Mr. Lef," he said. "I just moved in from Leftborough." "I can see that," Mr. Righ said begrudgingly. "Now look here. I don't know how you do things in Leftborough, but here in Meantown I have a proper way of doing things. Now you have your side, and this is where we'll part. You take the left, and I'll take the right." Then Mr. Righ turned and left him. Right as Mr. Righ was about to enter his home, Mr. Lef stopped him to ask, "Pardon me, Justice." "Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to startle you."
Don't sneak up on me like that! What is it?"
"Well, pardon me twice then. Might I trouble you for a cup of sugar? I haven't had the time to situate myself yet."
No, because I don't have anything left. Now go away!
The next morning, right as Mr. Righ was about to go for his daily stroll, he saw the neighbor to the left of Mr. Lef, standing outside of his doorway.
Shoo!
Yelled Mr. Righ.
This is not your home.
The next second, Mr. Lef stepped out of his front door to give his neighbor half a cup of salt.
Here you go,
exclaimed Mr. Lef gleefully.
It's all I have left.
Why, thank you, Mr. Lef, the neighbor said slyly. It's such a change of pace to have someone so generous in our presence.
Oh, think nothing of it,
said Mr. Lef.
Surely you would do the same.
Oh, why, surely, replied the neighbor. And then he left. Just then, Mr. Lef caught Mr. Righ out of the corner of his left eye.
Good morning.
Mr. Lef was happy to see Mr. Righ. Mr. Lef was just about happy to see anybody.
How could you call this a good morning? Your neighbor just took all of your salt.
Well, he's my neighbor, replied Mr. Lef.
I would do the same thing for you.
That's not right, said Mr. Righ.
That's not right at all.
Then he went off for his morning stroll. In the middle of his stroll, two strangers had come across Mr. Righ's path.
Excuse us. Go away, you two. I have nothing left to give.
We weren't talking to you, Mr. Righ, exclaimed one of them.
Yes, we were talking to the generous Mr. Lef behind you. What are you talking about? Hello! Oh, Mr. Righ, I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep scaring you like that.
Oh, said don't do that!
Hello, Mr. Lef. Would you happen to have a tissue you could lend? Why, certainly. Here you go. And on the off chance, would you happen to have a snack? Said the other stranger. I'm quite famished. Mr. Lef dug into his pocket again and pulled out his last snack bar that he had been saving. Well, I was saving this for later, but I guess I'm not hungry now. Why, thank you, Mr. Lef. You definitely are a breath of fresh air. Unlike your grumpy neighbor, Mr. Righ. And the two walked off without even saying a goodbye. Well, Mr. Righ, might you point me in the direction of the nearest shop? Now look here, said Mr. Righ adamantly. I'm only going to tell you this once because you're new here. If you don't learn how to put your foot down and say no, you're going to get trampled on and get taken advantage of. And then you're going to have nothing left. Mr. Lef replied, Well, it's only one tissue. And it's only one snack bar. I'm sure they would do the same for me. Like I would do the same for you.
That's not right!
If you're not going to listen, then there's no use in talking to you. Throughout the week, Mr. Righ would go on to experience the same routine of Mr. Lef's.
At first, strangers would go up to Mr. Lef to ask for simple things such as a tissue, a stick of gum, a pen, or a dime. But as time would go on, the requests would become to be more and more extravagant. They would go to his house and ask to borrow his hedge trimmers, his lawnmower, his toolbox, his cutlery, his hedge trimmer, his stationery, his lawnmower, his toothbrush, his toolbox, his stationery, his board game, his books, his toothbrush, his board game, his video streaming subtitles, his books, his towels, his video streaming subscription, his sugar, his eggs, his milk, his sugar, his...
Hey! This fool is giving away free stuff!
And they stormed him.
Where is this Mr. Lef? Bring him out so that we may get to know him.
And they nabbed everything they could get their little hands on. The furniture, the drywall, the beams, the wiring, the copper, the carpet. And they even took the cake that Mr. Lef had baked for his neighbor, Mr. Righ.
Oh my God!
Mr. Lef, speak to me, say something! I told you this would happen. I said if you didn't learn to put your foot down and say no, then... And now, you have nothing left. I don't have nothing left. I still have my life. I have the shining sun above my head. And I have my neighbor right beside me. There is goodness in this place. Did you do this? Why? Because we're neighbors. And I know you would do the same for me.
I don't know how you do things in Leftborough, but here in Meantown, there isn't a proper way of doing things. A rhyme or reason, a timely season. All decency has left them. To be right is to be wrong, but that's not in your vocation. Well then,
I know they took everything. It's rather quite taught. They ran in your home and tore it apart. But neighbor to neighbor, here's where we'll start. If you'll take the spine, I'll take the heart. Does this mean you'll spot me a cup of that sugar now? Cheers.
Cheers, mate.